Welcome to After the Poll, the video series where I take you through the realms of Marvel, DC, in the independent scene, and share my thoughts and opinions on all of the comic books that came out for this comic book week. I'm Mike Spider-Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, you like me helping you make decisions of what comic books to buy, and you've been watching for a while and you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do so now. So guys, if you haven't checked out my series called Worthy Ones, that's the series where I talk about all the newest issue ones that are released, and that takes place on Fridays. I'll leave that video at the end of this one. So with that being said, we got about I think it's like 10, 11, 12 comics to talk about. So let's go ahead, let's get started. Welcome to the realm of Marvel Comics. That's where we always start each and every week. And upon this recording, there was one book that I didn't get a chance to read from Marvel this week yet, and that was Ultimate Incursion issue 2. So I'll have to read that after this video. But the first book we're talking about today is Red Hulk. This is issue 6. Now, when it comes to Benjamin Percy's writing, I feel like the dude gets what comic books should be about. It's kind of like why we fell in love with comic books when we were kids, right? Just lots of action, fighting, you know, there is a plot there, but it doesn't overwhelm you with crazy ass details and stuff like that, right? I mean, this is a very, again, simplistic plot with the Red Hulk that was escaping doom. He's escaped and then he got captured by the military, and now he's being held prisoner here. Alongside with him, his supporting cast is Deathlock and Machine Man. And in this issue, you wind up getting to see Red Hulk trying to escape. You get to see Deathlock trying to rescue Machine Man before he's melted into scraps. And then you wind up getting to see Thunderbolt Ross actually meet up. I think a guy's name was Riker, right? And we get introduced to a new, like, Hulk-like creature, and it wouldn't be a Hulk book without that type of creature, and it was really well done, right? Had decent action in this one. This one always surprises me. I really enjoy the Red Hulk. I'm not sure how long this book is going to go on for, but I'm going to give this one a B+. I always love Benjamin Percy's writing, whether it's on Wolverine or Ghost Rider, Red Hood with Vengeance, whatever, all that stuff. Like, he always does fun comic books. The next book we're talking about is Uncanny X-Men issue 17. I think this was a highly anticipated comic because we're getting a mutant here that's kind of like surrounds itself with horror, right? And the premise of this comic book is that there is a movie that's coming to town. It's getting a lot of bad press because it's a mutant that's behind it that is killing other people, right? And so her name is Mutina, Mutina. I think that's how you say it, right? And so what happens in the comic book is you wind up seeing all the other mutants. They're kind of pissed off about the situation because they're working so hard to, you know, clear their name and say, hey, we're the good guys, we're not out to hurt people, but yet you make a movie about a mutant who is out to, you know, slash people, kill people, and that's what this movie is about. It's a slasher, right? And so what happens is the Outlier kids wind up getting tickets to this movie because they wanted to see it. It was sold out. Everyone wanted to see it. It's getting lots of publicity. You wind up getting to see a little bit about this movie, on what it's about, and how, again, it paints a bad picture for the mutants. The Outlier kids are like scared. They're like, oh, this was not a good movie. Does this make us bad people? And it's just one of those things where I never thought I would read an X-Men comic with them going to the movies. And this continues on the path of Gail Simone creating more characters where she can focus around the Outlier kids and not focus on the Uncanny X-Men. That's my biggest pet peeve about this comic book. If you want to write a story with the Outlier kids, I'm all for it, but do it in their own book, right? That's all I can say about that. And by the time you wind up getting into it, you wind up getting introduced to the character, who I think is actually pretty cool. She can read minds, right? And it looks like that she could be a true villain to the good guy mutants. Like, I don't feel like we've gotten that in a long time, so I felt like that was kind of cool. But then just as the action starts to ramp up, the issue is done, and she is done, and we don't know when we're going to see her again. This is a one and done story with this new character. Does she ever go anywhere? I don't know. Once again, Uncanny X-Men continues to let me down, and I think this comes to the time where I'm probably going to drop this book. I really am. I might check out that new event that's going on, and I don't even think these books are continuing during that event. I could be wrong, but nevertheless, it's just not my favorite book right now. I don't even know what to grade this book anymore. It's just one of those things where it's just in existence, and I read it to just read it, and I should not be doing that. That's just wasting money. All right, so we're done with Marvel Comics, and now we're in DC Comics. That was probably the lightest Marvel comic week I ever had. So the first book we're talking about is Batman Dark Patterns. This is issue 8. Once again, I'm going to tell my webheads out there, guys, thank you so much for recommending this book to me. This is an absolutely brilliant book. I love the detective side of this comic. It's like there's no other distractions in this comic book. It literally is like Batman, a little bit of Commissioner Gordon, and he's trying to solve the case at hand. And you get to see his narration, and it's just like a pure like detective book of what he's going through. It just reminds me of an older style of comic book storytelling in here. The artwork, I would say honestly, the artwork maybe not always hits for me, but it does have that tone, right? Like where it takes place in like Gotham and whatnot, but the facial expressions and it's like little stubble and everything, it is a little off. But that is just me nitpicking. An absolutely awesome story as Batman is trying to solve this murder mystery. He's trying to investigate this Red Hood gang, and we wind up seeing Batman severely injured in this comic, and you would never believe who kind of takes out Batman in this issue. Really well done. I would definitely recommend this book. It right now, it's like my favorite Batman book. I hate to say it, but it is. And I've only read 2 issues of this. I wish I read this from the very beginning. So this is going to be a top pick for me for DC Comics. This was really well done this week. All right, next we have Green Lantern Corps. This is issue 6. This story has our Lanterns trying to get materials to create batteries for their new planet so they can bring back the emotional spectrum here, okay? And in this issue, it focuses more around Joe Mullins and Jessica Cruz. And in this issue, we see that Jessica Cruz is in charge of OA and making sure that everything is run right and things are just in control, and she's the woman behind the desk, right? But Joe Mullins sees this as maybe falling into old habits for Jessica, because Jessica suffers from anxiety disorder. So she feels like, hey, you need to get out of here. You're using this job as an excuse to venture out into the world and take on missions. So you wind up getting to see a mission that they go on to try to restore Mogo. And that was really well done. I really enjoyed that. And then in the other part of the issue, you wind up getting to see Sinestro team up with, I don't know her name, but nevertheless, it's a fellow person of his planet, and they need materials obviously to continue to build the lanterns as well. There was decent action in this book. Sinestro comes across someone that I wasn't expecting to see in the book, so this was another well done Green Lantern Corps comic book. I'm going to give this one a solid B. It's an entertaining read. The next one we're talking about is Supergirl. This is issue 3. Now, this is one of those guilty pleasure comic books. You know, some of the times you get those books where you're like, you know, as a 50-year-old guy, should I be like reading this comic? And then you find some weird enjoyment out of it. I don't know what it is, you know? It's kind of drawn like a YA novel. Maybe it's kind of written that way as well. But nevertheless, I kind of want to see the adventures of what's going on with Supergirl. She winds up having that imposter Supergirl in the past couple issues, but now she's wound up getting her own identity where she wears these like purple spandex and stuff like that, and she wants nothing more but to erase Supergirl's existence on Earth. And what does she come across? Some black kryptonite that actually turns her into what is called Satan Girl, and crypto changes as well. It was an interesting battle. Is it the best thing I've ever read? No, but again, it's one of those books where you're just like, okay, you know, listen, if I gets to the point where I need to cut books, or I feel like I want to cut books, I could cut this one. I would like it to be a little bit more serious, but I don't think that's the tone that they're going for here. And we'll see where it continues to develop. But for right now, I'll continue it. I wound up giving this one a C+. So yeah, Supergirl issue 3. All right. So obviously we had Superman, the movie, come out this week, so there's a lot of super stuff that came out. And the next book we're talking about is Superman Action Comics, issue 1088. 1087 was a new jumping on point for a lot of readers as Mark Waid took the helm and sits there and says, all right, well, now I'm going to go back in the past and write about a modern story arc or story arcs, I don't know how long it's going to be like this, of Superboy. And honestly, this was really well done. 1087 was kind of the introduction of Clark becoming Superboy for the first time. And I was like, I didn't know if I was going to like this or not. But as we got to this issue, I really enjoyed this one better than 1087 because it does take place in Smallville. You wind up getting Superboy being discovered for the very first time. And his parents are obviously giving him some kind of restrictions towards his powers. And you get to see him save people and do heroic-like things. His school is built. He winds up coming across Lana. Obviously, he's got a crush on her. He's meeting friends at, what's the small town, Smallville High, is that what it's called or whatever? He meets his teachers, and then we wind up finding out that something horrible goes wrong in his high school, and we get to see Clark get fueled with rage for the first time. And with him being fueled with rage could not be a very good thing. He can go in one or two directions, and this book shows why Clark is the way that he is, right? He makes the right decision in the comic book. So this one was an awesome read. This became a really good book and an A+ for me this week. Top pick for DC Comics when it comes to Action Comics. The best Action Comics issue I have read in some time. All right, so now we travel to the alternate universe of, Superman, and we got Absolute Superman. This is issue 9. This is a much darker, obviously, Superman than the one that we know that takes place in the Absolute universe. The longer that he's here, maybe the more unhinged that he can get. And this book opens up with just Superman dealing with the ramifications of what happened in the last issue. He got shot by kryptonite bullets, and you get to see the Omega Man trying to actually, get rid of those bullets from his body. It was just very intense moments as this was going on. And as you read this comic book, you find out a little bit more of Ra's al Ghul in here, the Omega Men, Lois's ultimatum, just a lot of different moving pieces that happened in this comic. But you can see the Omega Men are going to do nothing short of destroying these Peacekeeper and Ra's and everybody else, and they're trying to convince Superman. And Superman's like, no one dies, and that's that. And so he holds strong to that. Amazing issue. Absolutely enjoyed this one. Again, DC just hitting it on all cylinders right now, and I gave this one also a top pick this week. Another A+. Wasn't bored with that one whatsoever. Now that you're done with the realm of DC, welcome to the world of the independent comic book. That's right, guys. We're talking about those indie gems. The only indie gem that I didn't get a chance to read yet this week is Savage Dragon. no one really cares about that except for me and a few of you others, so I'll read that on my own time. So we have Uncanny Valley. This is issue 10, the conclusion to the series. This series overall has been a great book, very original, very different, by Tony Fleeks and David Watcher here. The artwork is always really solid in the comic book, makes you feel like you're in a cartoon, right? And the only thing that held this book back for me is I felt like a lot of the issues were delayed and it killed its momentum, right? This is something that you would probably want to reread in trade. But we do get the conclusion of what happens to Oliver. You know, he's trying to go through this ritual to get the tunes to cross over to the Earth realm and whatnot. And we wind up getting to see Pete, which is the grandfather, and the mom try to work together to try to rescue Oliver. It was a great adventure. It was action-packed. You wind up getting to see all kinds of different cartoons in here, whether it was like the He-Man character, the Voltron character, the Turtles right over here. I think I just spit in the camera. It was just absolutely just awesome and action-packed, and this was a really fun issue, and it had a really good conclusion. So again, if it wasn't for the constant delays, I would probably give this one a top pick as well, but I think I'm going to give this one a solid A. It did wrap up really quickly. I think it read like within 5 minutes and I was done. So I gave this one a solid A this week. All right, the next book we're talking about is Conan the Barbarian. This is issue 22. This book, guys, oh my gosh. I think Jim Zub, and I always say Zeb Wells on accident sometimes, but Jim Zub does such a great job at writing this comic book. It feels like how old school comics were written, as he describes everything that's going on with Conan, whether he's taking a drink, slashing at an opponent, hooking up with a mistress. Like, everything about it is absolutely awesome. The artwork is so gorgeous. It's like, it's gory, it has action-packed, it has romance, just everything about it. The paneling work, the layout is so great. And in this issue, you wind up getting to see Conan being captured, and he's forced to fight in this arena, and he is a slave to this woman, and I forgot her actual name, but she's like an enchantress type of character, and again, she looks like this. And so he's just trying to play the game right now to gain her trust so he can escape this place and rescue some of the other people that are captured in here. The battling and the action scenes, like I said, in the arena are great. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this, you see what he does with this chick, and it's just absolutely awesome. This book is one of those next level books, guys. So freaking good. A++ top pick. So good. Probably my favorite read of the week. I'm not going to lie right here. And then the last book that we're talking about is Transformers issue 22. This is getting ready to set up the final battle of Daniel Warren Johnson's arc here, because there's a lot of moving pieces that take place in this issue, right? You wind up getting to see some more of the aerial bots trying to transport the Autobots out of danger from the Decepticons. You wind up finding out what Cliffjumper is going to do with Shredhead. Is he going to go back to Earth to help the Autobots prevail against the Decepticons, right? Is Optimus Prime going to live, or is he going to die? Is there going to be a new leader of the Autobots? The Matrix is out of Optimus Prime. There's so many different, like, again, little moving pieces that goes on in this book. The military is getting destroyed, and you're just like, oh my gosh, and how is this all going to come to a head by the time Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona actually end? But it is just a great ride, and I enjoy every single page of this one. And this, again, is another top pick from me. A+. Transformers develops or hits every single time. Again, looking forward to the end of this run by the great Daniel Warren Johnson. However, I gotta give Conan the Barbarian the top pick. It's just a well-written comic book all the way around. So overall, I think it was a freaking fantastic week when it came to comic books. Lots of awesome storytelling, and I wish every single week was like this because it would definitely increase comic book sales. So do you agree on disagree with my thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. Guys, I'll leave you more content right here for you to click on. In fact, this is the latest FOC that just came out this past week. And yeah, and the Worthy One video, so you can check out what my thoughts are on the newest issue 1. So as always, guys, remember, support those local comic shops, keep buying, keep collecting, but always, always read your comics so we can have great comic conversation just like we did today.